Well. How are we, guys? So, hopefully you can hear me okay. Coming to you live on the first episode of Better Body TV through your Facebook screens, and if it is in Canada or the US, we're joining from about 2 o'clock Eastern Time. If it's over in Oz and I'm lucky enough to have any of you come in live, it's going to be something like 7 o'clock in the morning, so you're probably in bed with your missus watching this. So hopefully I can give you some value. So look, just to start, guys, I want to tell you a little bit about what this is about. So why I'm wanting to get into the habit of going live more often with a branded show. This is because it's really important that this group is actually empowered to be able to make some changes and to have a direction. I see a lot of Facebook groups where there's just a lack of leadership, or there's no kind of clear mantra that is trying to be achieved inside of that group. The majority of this group is guys around the age of 25 to 45, of course, all men, and the goal of this group is to try to move people into getting to their best shape of their lives. Now, for a lot of us, that might seem an impossible task, but do you know what, guys? With the right knowledge, with some execution plans, and the right level of accountability coming from either a coach or coming from a group like this, getting support amongst the group, really big things can happen. And obviously you guys have seen some of the transformation photos that I've popped up into the group. There's some guys like really achieving some great stuff. And what I do is encourage you to share that, to share what you know. So rather than the group being about me, which it's not, it's about you. So the more that you can ask questions, the more that you can share what you've learned, it's going to help the journey of other blokes. That was really a highlight yesterday when I received that message through from one of my clients saying that he'd been inspired by one of the posts in the group of a guy transforming. Like, that is really where it's at. So for today's session, guys, what I want to focus on is really how to execute, or how to at least start on a successful transformation. You see a lot of guys that will go through transformations which are very short term, and there's reasons why these fail. So what I'm going to try to explain to you during this little program is a bit about why these transformations fail, a little bit about fear and how fear can be really the thing that holds you back. And the last part is really, what are the key parts to a transformation? What components does a transformation actually have in order to take hold? Now, I've done this with over 100 clients, and the results are there for people to see. People who stick to the plan get results. But sometimes they fail in other areas. They might fail in it's not through lack of willpower, it's lack of accountability. It might be they fire up, they do the work, but they're doing the wrong thing. Or it might be that they know all the stuff and don't follow through, don't execute. So what I'm going to do here is to try to get a bit of a handle on that and help you guys out. And at the end, if you want to ask any questions, then I'm happy to answer those for anyone that's joining live. Otherwise, just post your questions in the comments and I can come back to those either individually or at another time. So let's get started. I'm going to flick over to a PowerPoint screen here and stay with you in the top corner. So really, there's 3 steps that I see that are necessary to get to a point where you are actually ready to transform. And we're going to go deep here, right? So the first one of these steps is to admit that you're actually unhappy with your current situation. I mean, think about it. Why would you change if you were satisfied with the status quo? There's not enough motivation there to change. But my experience with working with men is that they have this like like low-level drone of negativity that's going on, and they kind of have accepted that that's okay, that's life, that's my life, and that's as good as it's going to get. Like, I implore you to know that it's just not the way it needs to be. You have the chance to break through, but it starts with being honest with yourself and admitting that there is a level of unhappiness there, and you've got to be at the point where you are fed up with, the status quo. You've had enough. You walk into the mirror in the morning, you take your knickers off, take your clothes off, get in for the morning shower and the morning shave, and you just don't like what you see. You have to be honest and admit that you dislike what you see if you want this to work. Now, the next step is to give yourself permission for a better life. Now, the reason that guys stay stuck is because they don't feel that they deserve happiness. They are surrounded by people who are collectively pulling them down, and there's not this feeling of, I deserve this. This is their deep self-image that is really coming to the front. So after you've decided, I do want to change because I'm unhappy with the circumstances, the next step you've actually got to do is give yourself permission in your life to welcome that change. Because if you have resistance in the change that you're trying to bring in, and what you are allowing yourself to do, then that's not going to line up. So give yourself permission in step 2. Now, step 3 is that we get caught in this procrastination loop. How many times have you felt like, oh man, I'd really, really like to do this, and then you get this flick of motivation, and then something comes up. Something comes up at work, or you get a phone call that knocks you off, or you get a bill arrive in your inbox, and this happens all the time. And we get into a procrastination loop that we all know so well. What I've begun to see happen over and over is that if you allow yourself more than 5 seconds in thinking about taking action, the procrastination loop kicks in. And let me tell you, the reason why that happens is it's because the moment you make a decision, your mind goes into stress. It's stressed because it's thinking, oh my God, I'm scared, change, fear. And so what happens is your brain's way of getting rid of that stress is to put you into a procrastination loop. As soon as you start procrastinating, everything calms down and the stress goes away. But you don't take action. So the third step is that you need and must take action immediately. Now, I want to bring you to this idea of fear and give you an idea on why we actually stay stuck. So have a look at the diagram here. And what we're seeing is what's called the comfort zone model. And most of us are sitting in here. And I must admit, there's been plenty of times in my life where I've been sitting right deep within this comfort zone. The reason we stay in the comfort zone is because it's safe. There's no reward because there's no risk. So we stay buried in this comfort zone. Do you know many of you are choosing not to act because the fear of what possibilities could come with change and the potential of failing on those possibilities actually creates more angst. So for a lot of us, it's actually just easier to stay stuck. You would have heard of the phrase, better the devil you know. And that's a really unfortunate phrase that keeps most of us stuck. So rather than jumping out of this comfort zone into a growth zone, what actually ends up happening is we just get better the devil we know and we stay stuck. Now, the other mistake that a lot of people actually make is when they do get started, they try to do too much too quickly. And they go straight from the comfort zone where they potentially could have been sitting for any number of years to going straight over to the panic zone. And they do so without a coach. So they're so far out of their comfort zone that what happens is they hit a terror barrier. A terror barrier is a massive wave of fear or terror that comes up when you're about to make a big change. The bigger the change, the greater the fear. And so what happens is when people go it alone or bite off more than they can chew, bang, they hit that terror barrier. Now, if we know about the fear, the terror barrier, we can push through it. But a lot of us get really surprised about how fearful we are. And what happens is when you hit the terror barrier, you bounce back to your comfort zone and get stuck back where you started. And again, so begins this procrastination loop where nothing ever changes. And this is really the reason why getting a support group, like the group that we have here, or a coach on board can really, really help. So where we go wrong? Well, the reality is most of us never really get started in a transformation. Why? Well, we've talked about this just now. We have fear that's coming in, and we have procrastination that's coming in. And this really, really is the reason why a lot of us never actually get started, this constant procrastination loop. Guys, what I'm going to do is just quickly check that the live video is actually coming up on your feeds. I got a message from one of the guys saying, are we live yet? So let me just check it out. Yep. Okay, cool. Yeah, we are live. Thanks, Dave, for giving us the like, mate, to give us an idea. So the next part of that is that we start, but we give up. Now, why would you give up? Well, I see a lot of guys going into a gym and they're pounding hard, like really motivated. But what ends up happening is they're executing on the wrong thing. So if you're doing the wrong thing really, really well, are you going to get results? Well, of course not. And that's where we need to have the knowledge part to start. Now, the other part is you could be knowledgeable to all hell, but not execute, not follow through. And there we're going to have the same problem. And the last part is the accountability. I want to take you into that now because I have a model which I really do think works. But here's the point. Most of us are really going in and trying to get a transformation started without having any form of a plan. Imagine like building a house and just having zero plan, zero idea on how you're going to go about it. You just start laying bricks. And that's what a lot of us do when it comes to trying to get in shape. We go out and we start trying to build our new beautiful house. And of course, we go up a couple of levels, or we forget to put the frame in, or we start trying to build the roof before we lay the bricks, or before we lay the foundations. And this is why really getting a plan and making sure you're abiding by a plan, I've got to tell you guys, transformation of your body is a science. If you do this, if you follow this plan, you will get this result. Let's have a bit of a look more how that works. So what I do with my clients is go through what I call the 3x4 better body method. Okay, the 3x4 better body method. The reason is because it's called so because it contains really the 3 key components that any coach should be giving you. The first one is knowledge, the right knowledge. Okay, now there's so much BS out there in this industry that it's almost impossible to tell what is real from what is fake. Okay, so what I try to do with my guys at the start is put them through daily or weekly empowerment courses to make sure that this can be a change that they do for the rest of their life. not just something that is going to work for 3 months until we give up and then it's all over. Okay, so the first piece of the puzzle is this knowledge piece. Now, the second piece of the puzzle that I've talked about is the execution piece. So without the execution piece, you can be the best educated dude in the world, but not follow through, and nothing is going to actually happen. The third part to the puzzle is this daily and weekly accountability. We all know that when we have a support network around us, and that will include a coach, we're much more chance of getting back on the horse when we fall off. And yes, we will fall off. And I tell a lot of my guys, I got a message through the week off one of the boys saying, I fell off the horse, and it was almost as if it was an excuse to give up. When you realize that falling off the horse is completely natural, then all of a sudden you give yourself permission to get back on the horse. It's not about trying to be perfect at every step of the road. It's about making progress from where you are now. Does this make sense, guys? So, hey Mickey, how are you, man? Thanks for joining the stream there, buddy. So let's talk, before we sort of finish this one up, on the 4 parts to the puzzle. Now, if you've been involved with my world at all over the last couple of years, you know that I'm always talking about these 4 pillars to a transformation. These are so important. And the majority of programs that I've seen only deal with 2 of them. So when you're dealing with a dietitian or a PT, generally you're playing on the level of nutrition and activity. So what we're doing is playing around with calorie balance. Okay, does this make sense? Hey Al, how are you, buddy? So the next question to ask is, why is it that if it's all about calorie balance, that so many of us are not in the shape that we want to be in? So if it was all about nutrition and activity, why then is it that so many of us are overweight? Well, there's a second level that must be brought into any transformation. So whether you're working with myself or you're working with another coach entirely, or you're doing this alone, it's very possible to do this alone. You need to remember that there is a secondary level here, which is your mindset and your overall lifestyle. Let me explain a little bit what that means. Well, people think that it's all about willpower. They think that willpower is the thing that's going to make them successful. Work ethic, yes, but willpower, not so much. Do you ever notice how your willpower is never there just when you need it to be? This is because willpower is limited. Mindset, guys, is unlimited. It's completely unlimited. So what happens is, if you're coming from a program, and this program is coming from your self-image, which is one of, I can't do things, I'll always fail, I can't achieve. All of your attempts at nutrition and activity, calorie balance, are not going to last because of the fact that your mindset is not sustainable. It's not going to be something that's going to bring you success for the long term. And likewise, the other secondary pillar being lifestyle. If you have a life that is stressed to the teeth and a job that does not allow you to be able to modulate nutrition and activity in, you work long hours like most guys do, and you just don't have time to plan, well, your lifestyle hasn't set you up to be a success on the calorie balance level. So we can do some stuff about this, and I call this lifestyle recalibration and mindset training, but it does require some dedication, and this is why transformation really requires a plan. So just to recap on this one here, guys, nutrition, activity being the primary pillars, and mindset and lifestyle. Alone nutrition activity, you will eventually give up. But when you build in this mindset and this lifestyle training, all of a sudden you unlock these powers of sustainability that you just didn't know you had. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea on how to execute on a transformation. I didn't want to go into too much detail about the individual components here of the Transformation 4, what I wanted to instead do is give you a bird's eye view of how it should look. The first level is that you need to get to the point that, remember the big three at the start, you need to get to the point where you are hating your current scenario so much, step one. You give yourself permission to change and to bring in this new abundance, step two, and you act immediately. The next step is you're going to get fear. Fear is going to come up in you, and fear is going to keep you in that procrastination loop if you don't act quickly. It's not that the fear goes away. The fear of change is always there. It's always associated with change. But if you learn to punch through that terror barrier, all of a sudden, some beautiful, beautiful freedom lies on the other side. And then the last thing we talked about here is the 3x4 method, which really just encourages you to try to approach your transformation from not just a calorie-based level, but bring in some mindset and lifestyle as well. So I guess just to finish up, I'll give you a bit of an idea on my process. So for those of you that are really interested in actually trying to move forward with the transformation, I can give you an idea on what that looks like, because this is the exact coaching that I'd be giving you. And it starts with this intro call. The idea of an intro call is really very simple. It's for us to work out whether A, we like each other. We're only going to be in a good coaching relationship if we like each other. And the other part to that is, can I help you? Is it a challenge or a problem or a situation that I've dealt with many times before and I feel confident being able to help you get unstuck? So we have a 10 to 15 minute call to start. It's completely relaxed. It's simply across the phone, no video. We just get on the phone and work out, is this something that we want to take further? Now, the next step here would be to complete an application. Okay, this application is really my screening to make sure that you believe you are ready to start, because before you ever pay me any money, I want to make sure that you're ready to get a return on that investment. Now, the third step of the road is we go into what's called a clarity call. For my clients that end up watching this, you'll know exactly what this is about. This is about sitting down, and we'll do it via video call like this, and we'll get to the nuts and bolts of why it is that you actually want to change. Why is it that you want to do this? Because when you inevitably fall off the wagon, I'm going to need to know why it is that you started, what got you started in the first place. Because that's the key to getting back on, to getting back on, to getting back on, to getting back on, and then eventually punching through and having a successful long-term transformation that lasts the rest of your life. And of course, after that clarity call, we can get started. So that's pretty much a wrap for what I wanted to cover off on today's episode, guys. I really do hope it was simple enough. Obviously, I'm still playing around with the tech side of this, and following on episodes will get better in terms of the lighting and the content and all that sort of stuff. But for now, if you would like to download the guide, there's a link in the actual post wording that you can go to download the guide from episode 1. Very shortly, I'll be putting up a replay of the episode. So for those of you that missed it, you can either watch it on Facebook or you can watch it on the replay there as well. And lastly, if you do want to book a call, you can either send an inbox, but the best way to do is just go to the website jasestewart.com/start, and then you can book the call in from there. And from that call, we can do that intro. We can explore it. We can see whether we like each other. We can hear what the challenge is and see if it's a problem that I feel confident being able to help you solve. And if it is, then we can move on to our next step, the application, and you could be in a transformation, by this time next week. So that's a wrap, guys. I hope everyone's having a lovely, lovely weekend. Thanks for joining me either live or later on down the track. I love you guys. And remember, guys, keep the content coming. Keep posting up on that group. Let's get this thing pumping to create a network of men that are moving forward. I love you guys. I'll chat soon.